Good evening and welcome to another Saturday night conversation here on the Tobago Inspirational Network. We're going to be having a great discussion again this evening, and we have with us a prolific writer, an author who has written, I believe, as many as 50 books. I'll ask him just now, how do you really write 50 books? I'm not sure in this lifetime. But this is somebody who has done a lot of work. He's an academic. He's also a reverend in the New Testament Church of God. He has, been doing a lot of work in terms of society. But we want to talk a little bit about suicide. And Geary Reid, who we'll be talking with tonight, has compassion for those who have contemplated taking their lives. To empower them to overcome their problems and to know that they are not alone. And that's why he wrote this particular book that we'll be talking about, Winning the Battle Against Suicide. Though he has faced many problems, Reid has never given up and now says an enthusiastic yes to life. And he has shared his problems with loved ones and has received help when he needed to. And he hopes that, this book would, of course, empower and encourage others to do the same. So tonight we're talking with Geary Reid, author. Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Good evening to you, and thank you very much, my brother. Thank you very much for all who are listening to tonight. I want to say to you, indeed, I trust that you had a very good night. Despite all that's happening with COVID-19, let us make sure we do everything necessary to stay alive and do the best we can. Indeed, my name is Geary Reid, a prolific author, as our host did mention. Having 50 books, it's an accomplishment, significant accomplishment. What I must say to you is that the last 46 books were written within a 46-month period of time. The first 4 books were written within a 2-year period of time. This book, which we're going to talk about today, Winning a Battle Against Suicide, is a book designed to help every single individual to win their battle against suicide. Because suicide is something that affects every single individual. And so while you as an individual might have not contemplated that, there might be other persons within your family, within your home, within your society, at workplace, who might have been affected with suicide. And so you have a great opportunity of sharing with them this book so that they can able to stand up against suicide and be strong, and we know we can see them tomorrow. So let's do whatever is necessary to help someone to win their battle against suicide.
Right. So let's jump into the discussion in itself. What have you found, in your interactions as some of the principal reasons? I know the book goes in, and we'll talk a little bit about that just now. The book goes into a lot of details about the various reasons that people are depressed. But what are some of the common reasons you've found in your interactions why people are driven to this drastic action?
Very good. Let's take a practical example which is before our eyes today. The whole issue of the pandemic. It has caused much disruption in persons' individual life and also in their society. And when persons recognize that they cannot find a way out of their problem, they believe what they can do is to exit this earth. And so therefore the problem does not exist, or they will not be affected by the problem. And so oftentimes people are affected by so many issues. Some of those issues are internally. It could be issues of depression. It could be hurt. It could be that someone said something to them and having low self-esteem about themselves. And what they might contemplate, well, suicide might be my best option, because if nobody cares about me in the family, then I don't need to be around. And we have external factors that might affect person, economic situation, loss of job. And so you have a combination of both internal and external factors that affect each individual. There is no one unique thing that affects every single individual, because each individual will be affected in their own different way. And so all of us at some point in time might have considered suicide, but many persons decide to stand against that and find different ways of how they can overcome that. And this is something that the book speaks about.
Right. I want to share an excerpt from the book that I found. I went through, and it's pretty interesting. Let me see if I can pull it up there. It says, "Do you know that everyone has problems? Your problems may appear like a mountain, but it may be a pebble compared to problems that other persons face. Do not give up on your dreams. If you can stay alive today, then you can stay alive for tomorrow. Some of your problems have nothing to do with you. Problems can develop as a result of people around us, so it may not be that you have done anything wrong." Let me see, I just lost that a little bit there. Let me just bring it back. Even if you did not provide an invitation, problems will still visit you. That's a lot said there in that little segment. Let's start with the fact that and you mentioned it just now. Everybody has problems. Sometimes when you see people on the brink of suicide, you talk with them and you say, you know what, you are not the only one with this problem. I recognized a long time ago that every time you think you have a major problem, somebody has one that is worse or bigger than you. And you are thinking that, hey, this problem is so big that it can't be handled. But let's talk about that everybody has problems, and what might be seem like a mountain for you might be a little pebble for somebody else. Talk with us a
Well,
little bit about that.
great. Thank you very much. You've said it rightly. Indeed, everyone has problem. Sometimes we sit down and we tell ourselves that we are the only person who's having problem. For instance, let's talk about problem. Problem do not have any special friends. This is what I state inside my book. Problems do not have any special friends. So the person who is very poor has problem. The person who is extremely rich has problem. The person who is single has problem. The person who is married has problem. Every single individual has problem. And we must see from that position that suicide does not have friend, or it would not consider anybody superior to another person, because each individual has problem. But what is important, once we can understand that we do have problem, we must also think about what we must do to remedy our problem. So there are so many problems all around the world, as I state. It can be at your home. It can be also problems at your childhood days. For example, many persons who are growing up, um, you hear them talk about, they might have been molested. Some uncle or aunt said something negative to them, and it caused them to have a drop in energy or a drop in their feeling. And so sometimes they feel that life is of no value towards them. So whether you're young or you're old, their problem. Whether you're married or you're not married, you do have problem. Problem will visit every single individual, and problems does not need an invitation to come to you. It will come at any point in time, but how do you handle problem is what we want to talk about tonight, because how can you able to overcome your challenges? How can you win your battle against suicide is what we want to talk about it. So problems will come in all forms, any size, anytime. What we must do is to stand up against the problem and find alternatives that will take us along the line, that will allow us to live the next day and to become successful.
Yeah, because I want to just bring something else up that I found in a book that was pretty interesting. A statement. This jumped out at me. It says, "Those who do not overcome their problems will soon be overcome by them." So it's extremely important that when challenges pop up, when these problems show up in our lives, that we don't just take a back seat and allow it to grow. That we face the problem. I usually tell people it's important that you face your fears, because they will not go away. In fact, they can become greater and greater if you don't decide to treat with them. So it's very important that we confront those things that are presenting themselves as mountains, as challenges in our lives, rather than just sit back and cower and allow it to overcome us.
But you've said it nicely. The thing about it, we all grow and become stronger when we can confront the problem that is in front of us and to win the battle. Too many times we allow the battle to get over us, And when we recognize that the challenges are greater than we think they are, we tell ourselves that existence is not necessary. I can bring an end to this situation by taking my own life. And that is not the solution to the problem, because the problem that has affected you will be a similar problem affecting many other persons around the world. But many persons we've seen today gone through what others are going through, and they found solutions to their problem so that today they are much better than where they were before. This life will never be free from problem. Despite you may be a religious leader from whichever religious organization, you will constantly face challenges. But at the end of the day, you as an individual must be able to use your experience, talk with other person, use your religious knowledge, use your academic knowledge, use your work experience to find ways of overcoming your challenge. And when you do that, the other thing we must do is to also encourage other persons to stand up against the challenges that confront them.
Right. And I mean, I'm just pulling bits and pieces of the book that really, jumped at me. And this is one along that line. Says the problem will remain longer with anyone who will not work feverishly to get rid of it. It's within the same context that it's so important that we deal with problems. When I talk with people who are challenged, in a lot of times they are just sitting there and they are meditating on the issue, but they are not necessarily coming up with a way of how do I treat with this thing? How do I aggressively attack this problem to come up with some type of solution? And they're sitting there and they're just thinking about it, And I remember reading one time in a book, I believe it was, it says, what you think about becomes magnified. That which you focus on becomes greater and greater. And if you focus on something negative, a problem, it just becomes greater unless you can begin to determine some type of solution to that issue. And it is important that we treat with this.
Well,
I want us to, yes, go ahead.
well, what happens many times is that we allow our problem to stay with us longer. And we spend too much time contemplating about what is happening, and we're not thinking about solutions, or we're not moving to other persons who can help us to find solution. And as you rightly mentioned, we're sitting in our quiet moment and we're thinking that this problem is greater than I am, greater than I am. And as we continue to think about that, we cause ourselves to be in a depressed state. And after we are depressed and we don't find any possible way out, we believe that the end towards it is taking our life. Because why? We allow all of it to stay within us. We have to find other exit point whenever we're having problems. And that includes talking about people, helping other persons, and finding other way around it. And later in our discussion, we'll talk about how do we win it. So we'll talk more about that.
I know a big part of the book also talks about children. And this is a primary concern for me because I'm seeing a lot of children who are struggling with this issue of suicide. As early as children under 12, and then you have teenagers and all of that struggling with suicidal thoughts. And I noticed in the book you spoke a lot about children. You talked about children and parents and all of that, even the interaction with church leaders and so forth. Tell us a little bit about that in terms of, why would a child be experiencing suicidal thoughts? You figure this. You talk a lot about problems, but a lot of what you spoke about, these are problems that adults have. But children, as you've indicated, also have issues that can drive them to suicidal thoughts. Tell us a little bit about that.
Very good. There are times as parents, sometimes what we say to our children can cause them to contemplate suicide. And so children in return are being negatively impacted based upon what we as the adult will say to them. So parents can have a very negative impact upon their children by what they say. What also happens is that, for example, if a parent is asking a child to do much more than the child can do based upon his or her ability. It sometimes make that child feel that, the parent don't really care about them. My parent don't really love me. My parents is trying to punish me. And look at it, for example, in some relationships, whenever there is, let's assume there's a divorce or some marital issue, you find many times the child may eventually be the one who's going through a lot of the problems, because sometimes either parents may see the child as a favorite to one of the parent and may decide now to apply some pressure to that particular child. That can be a situation. Single parent also have their own issues because, for example, if the mother or father has to go out to work, oftentimes the child has to either assist with some other work, which should have automatically gone to an adult. So children go through those issues. Children also has issues sometimes at school, where some teachers will say to them some things that are very derogatory to them. And so the child may feel that I am nobody of importance because my teacher is saying certain things to me. For example, if a teacher will say to a child, you're no good, you can't learn anything good, you're wasting time, why is it you come to school? The child feels as though he or she is not doing anything important, and my teacher, who's supposed to be there to help me, is making me feel very bad. We also have issues where sometimes uncle and aunts say some negative things towards children. For example, some parents may leave their children with their uncle or aunt or some other relative to keep them because either they're working or they have to go somewhere else. But the aunts and uncles may say some negative things to those children and make those children feel as though they're not worth the while. We also have issues sometimes religious leaders. Some religious leaders may not understand what is it that they're doing to certain children when they make certain statement to them. And so we see once again that many persons can contribute towards children being affected by suicide. We also have neighbors. There are some neighbors who will say some negative things to children, and those children will feel, well, I don't think I need to be around because if my neighbor can say that to me, something is really, really wrong. So we can see many persons doing bad things or saying bad things to children and cause those children to be affected. We also have the issue of peer pressure. Children who are going to school or within a certain group, they may be under some peer pressure from some others. And if they feel they can't live up to the expectation, then they will ask themselves, why am I here? So we can see there are many situations which will cause children to be affected or to have suicidal thoughts because they're individuals just like anyone else. So while many of the problems may be common to adults, children can also be affected by these issues. So I want to share those points with you.
All right, and just now we'll get to solutions because I just one of the questions that came in just now spoke about the fact that in that state you may not have a lot of people who you can trust, and you might not feel comfortable sharing with people and all of that. But we will come to that just now. But there's a very interesting statement that you made in that book that I want to talk about. And this is it. It says, not all homes are a safe place for every member of the family. And if employees, I think you were talking at that point about that work-life balance.
Yes.
And so you're saying that, and if employees have problems at home or with their companions, they do not want to be at work and feel the same pressures of life. And when we study, I did a lot of studies in terms of that work-life balance. And we were assessing the implications of productivity at work based on challenges at home. And the results were really startling when you looked at how many people you just see people come to work and we might just say you're miserable, um, but or you're unproductive. But when you really trace it back, some of these people are having a lot of challenges at home with their relationship with children, with finances, and all of that. And so there is often a link. But I pull this out because you're talking about the fact that you can't be having challenges home, and then you turn up to work and you're having challenges as well. And it's almost like a lose-lose scenario happening there. Tell us a little bit about what you were talking about here.
Very good. There are times individuals may be affected with problems at home. And as I said before, all of us will have challenges at home. But also, when you go to the workplace, your supervisor may say some things to you or may do some things that distract you. And what that happens, it compounds the problem because you're having problems when you just leave home. And when you go to the place of work, you're also having problems. For example, you go to work and you reach there for 8:05. Let's assume your working hours 8 o'clock, and your supervisor immediately says something negative to you without first asking you why is it that you came to work late. You may not be an employee who goes to work late every single day, but on that one occasion you went late, and immediately the supervisor began to speak to you in a negative way. We also have situations where some persons feel that their supervisors are picking on them. Every single thing that they do, the supervisor is picking or nagging at them. And sometimes it can be extremely challenging for any single individual because you know you're having problems at home and you went to work and you're feeling the same situation reoccurring itself. And that can take you into a very depressed state. So there are challenges people face at work, home, and different other organizations to which they are. And when they recognize that they cannot find any way out of that, they feel that they are in a bottleneck situation. And sometimes they believe, well, I have my own answer towards it, and I will take myself out of the equation so that I can move on or whatever. So you have those situations happening every single day in our situation in life.
All right, I want to look at one other statement you made. I'm trying to pull these bits and pieces out from the book so we can lay some foundation before we begin talking about the solutions. Um, this has to do with relationships, and it says that some people become so timid that they feel uncomfortable making basic decisions since their partner makes them feel that they are unable to make any decision without them. They operate almost like robots and slaves. All of their self worth is gone, and they often second guess themselves. How does this link to suicidal thoughts?
But just think about it. You are in a relationship, and in every relationship, each individual brings their own skill set to the relationship. But if in the relationship, one partner makes the other one feel as though they are useless, they cannot make any decision, or if they make any decision, they must pass it through that partner. And if that partner does not approve their decision, then that decision cannot be executed. That person sometimes believe that they are being oppressed by their partner. And it happens many times in relationships where you have the other companion who is autocratic in the leadership style. They make you feel that you cannot make any decision without them. For example, if you're going to be cooking a particular food today, you must ask them if this is the food we'll cook today. That make a person feel very bad. They want to go out and see their family members, but if you don't approve of it, they can't go and see their family member. They want to buy a, a piece of clothing. Before they can do that, they must ask you if they can buy this particular clothing. Persons feel oppressed in those situations because they are not operating as an individual, but they're operating under the dictate of the other partner who is influencing them in a very strong way that you cannot make any decision unless I give approval of it. And that is a situation we find happen many times in many relationships. And persons feel that, I really can't handle this anymore because I thought I married to someone who is going to be a partner to me and help me to have a free flow of communication, but within the context of helping the relationship to grow. But what I found out now, I'm having a boss in my life. I'm having a dictator in my life. And this is putting me under undue pressure. For example, if a person came from a home where both their parents allow them to make decisions easily, And whatever decision they made, the parents were able to support them because the parents believed that they were mature enough in their thinking. And then you come into a relationship where you cannot make decision because your companion said to you, no decision will be made unless I approve of it. You feel um, congested, you feel tied up, you feel squeezed, you don't feel like an independent individual anymore because your companion did not give you the approval. So we have the situation happening.
One of the things that I know comes up a lot when you read about suicidal stories or stories about suicide has to do with people unable to handle hurt in relationships. Somebody separated from you, and I can't see myself living without this individual. Or I've seen this individual with another partner, and this thing was just too much for me to bear. I can't remember seeing it in the book. I mean, I read a lot of things in a flash. Um, have you come across much of that, and how much of an issue that is? What do you say to somebody who is experiencing that emotional type of trauma or pain of losing? Um, and this is not death we're talking about. We're talking about the individual has moved on to somebody else.
Well, what happens? I might have not probably put it clear enough like that in the book. It may be somewhere. If it is not there, in my second edition, I will bring it out definitely. But nevertheless, there are individuals who are in a relationship, and let's assume one person is the breadwinner, um, and the other person depends upon them. The breadwinner oftentimes believes that he or she must have the other person as a servant towards them. And so if the breadwinner decides, well, he or she wants to move on, the other person feels to themselves that they cannot exist anymore because their main source of help or the person who makes the best most decision in the relationship is no longer there. And so sometimes they feel that, well, I cannot do anything else. I don't need to be around. And it happens many times. There are times in some relationships where one individual make the other one feel that you cannot live without me. I'm every single thing that you need, and you have to stay with me for the rest of my life. They say that and they act it very often. And so you feel that I have to stay in this relationship because I'm nothing without this relationship. No one will validate me because this individual said to me, I'm not the best individual. It happens many
But but
times in
but, I,
relationship.
but I'm looking at it on somewhat on the flip side. Let's say, for example, you're in a relationship, a marriage, one of those live home type relationships, or any type of relationship for that matter. And maybe the person might have cheated on you. Maybe they have just decided I don't want you anymore. I have a new love of my life or something like that. And we read so many stories about suicide where that is the premise of it, because people just can't stand to see this person who I figured I was going to be with for the rest of my life, or I'm so in love with, you know, um, maybe it would have been the first and only love of my life, different things. And all of a sudden, this person is flaunting somebody else, maybe in front of me. Maybe my friends are telling me, "Oh, I'm seeing your partner with some other woman, some other man," and they are so depressed because friends are telling me, family members are telling me, "Hey, I see your wife, I see your husband, with this person," and then I've seen people being driven to alcohol and drugs and all of that because of this very issue, and it is something that requires some type of deliberation in terms of how people treat with it if they find themselves in that situation.
Yeah, indeed, we do have that. Indeed, some persons in the relationship and they understand when they enter the relationship, as we often say, it's better for worse. So they will stay in the relationship. But to see, as you rightfully mentioned, that your partner is cheating on you, where they have found another person, you feel sometimes it takes too much out of you, especially, and I share this with you, if your partner is someone who probably came into the relationship, probably not having a proper education when they came into the relationship, not having any wealth when they came into the relationship, and you help that individual to become better. As we say in layman language, they can now stand on their feet because of your help. Or the other situation, if you made tremendous sacrifice for that individual in order for them to develop or to become a better individual, and then after they grow or they reach a particular stage, they feel to themselves that they don't need you anymore. For example, you came into the relationship, there was no house, no land, no vehicle. You sacrifice some of the things that you could have done. You save up all of your money to help assist with the house or with the vehicle. And then your partner is now using that vehicle to carry out somebody else who they're having a relationship with or who they're flirting with. It makes you feel very, very depressed. And in that situation, many times some persons might able to speak about it. There are other times some persons are unable to say anything because if they say anything, the partner will respond to them in a very negative way. Sometimes they stay quiet and they are nurturing their problem for a very long time. And after a while, it can cause them to be very depressed. And they might also consider that suicide might be my option in this whole situation because I can't talk to the individual. They wouldn't listen to me. Or the individual believe that they must do whatever they want to do despite what I will say. So you have those situations happening every now and again. And indeed, in relationships, whether it is common law relationship or marriage, you will find also anyone who see their companion responding in any negative way like that, it can cause a very harmful effect upon them as an individual. And they might think of doing something that might not be the best. Not everyone is open enough to come and talk to their companion about the problem or open enough to find somebody who they can express their situation to and tell them. So some people decide to stay quiet, but the problem is affecting them. Sometimes they tell the companion, but the companion keep denying. And the companion will say to them, do you have any evidence? Sometimes you can't bring any evidence to them. You don't have anything to show, but you know that something is going wrong. And so sometimes you feel uncomfortable in a situation like that.
All right, let's begin to talk now about how do we really win this battle, because we've laid the groundwork. We understand a lot of the fundamental issues and reasons why people are depressed and suicidal and so forth. Um, how do we begin to treat with these issues? How do we, as an individual, if you are depressed, you're suicidal, how do you move from that stage to the stage where you can actually win this battle?
Very, very good question. So this book is divided into two main sections. The first section talks about problems and it identifies many problems that we all as individuals face from time to time. The second section talks about how do we win the battle against suicide. One of the very things that we can do is talking with people. Just now before we start this other aspect of how do we win it, we were talking where persons are sometimes depressed. They're affected in so many ways, but they do not tell anybody. They keep all of their concern, all of their problems to themselves. And it keep building every single day. So you have problem at work, you have problem at home, you have problem at school, and you keep building it. But you're not talking to anyone else. There are many persons who have solutions to some of the problems that you're going through. So one way to address the issue is talking with person. You can talk with your partner, you can talk with your workmate, you can talk with your friends, you can talk with your neighbors. Find somebody to speak to. As we will say, you have to get a matter off of your stomach, get it off of your chest. Get someone to hear your views. When they listen to your views, they might be able to give you solution or they might be able to recommend to you where you can go to find somebody else who can assist you. So it's important that you do not keep the problem to yourself. The other thing we can do is to confront the person who's affecting us, confront the problem, and address it. We did discuss early, if we run away from our problems, we'll recognize we will never win our battle against suicide. There are times you have to confront it. So let's assume you are in a relationship and the other person is doing something to harm you. You should be able to stand up to them and say, well, look, in a peaceful manner, this is what you're doing. I don't like what you're doing. I believe that you need to make certain changes so as to help the relationship to grow. Do it in a peaceful manner, because if you often take a confrontational approach, it oftentimes don't go down very well. It may be a similar situation at your place of employment where you're having challenges with your supervisor or your manager. You can approach them and indicate to them that these are some of the things that they are doing which is causing a negative impact upon you, and ask them. Probably you can use a different approach of telling me whenever I am wrong. But the approach of where you're shouting down to me make me feel as though I'm a child at the office, and I don't like that. So we have to confront our situation. And there are times, if we could temporarily move from where the problem is, it may be a good solution. Hear me again, temporary move. It's not always to take a permanent move away from where we are to fix certain things. But there are times, if you can move temporary, it can make a very big difference in your life. For instance, if you're living in a very depressed community, oftentimes it can make you feel very depressed and you might want to think about suicide. But if you can change location, you might be able to find some level of comfort and peace that can help you as an individual to overcome. We can also look at this other aspect of how do we overcome suicide by increasing our learning. Go ahead.
Before you get to that, I want us to deal with this question that came in, because this had to do with that point that you were just making. The person was saying that, if I'm in this state, oh, not that one, the previous one, sorry. My hesitation is about people. Why should I go to them when I'm in? This is it. If I have my hesitation about people, why should I go to them when I am in this isolated state? So if I have issues with people, why should I go to them if I'm in this state?
But hear this thing. Remember, I shared with you before, there are times we have to confront some problems. Let's look at it in the area of sports. And I want to look at one game of sports, cricket. There are times if you allow a bowler to get on top of you, very soon your wicket will be hit over because the bowler got over to you. But let's look at it this other way. If when the bowler is coming in, you walk up to him or her and hit the ball past the bowler at least two occasions within the same over, you will cause the bowler to recognize that he or she cannot get you out using that approach. So there are times you have to push back the problem where the problem started from. That's one of the things that you have to do as an individual. Also, if you fail to confront those who are affecting you, after a while, they will begin to gain more strength and advantage over you, and they'll begin to apply more pressure upon you as an individual that may cause you to probably even take consider suicide much earlier than you ever thought about it. You have to sometimes confront some situation. Not all of the time we can avoid the situation, but you have to confront the situation and address. The confronting it may be confronting the individual. Because if you are able to overcome that challenge through that individual, you may be gaining strength to overcome many other problems that will come your way. I know many individuals don't like to confront the person who's affecting them, but something that is the only way out of it. Let's look at a dog. If a dog constantly recognizes that you're fearful of him or her, after a while they will always approach you and they will want to harm you. But if you can be strong enough and the dog recognizes that you are stronger than them in terms of your will and your action, the dog sometimes begins to move away whenever you come in.
All right. I want us to just fast track a bit. I know you were going to increase your learning, but I want us to talk a little bit about counseling. Because a lot of times, people are depressed and you tell them you need to talk with somebody, and it sounds almost like a cliche. You need to find somebody to talk with. And people are saying, but I just don't trust anybody. Talk with your pastor. I don't trust my pastor. Talk with his wife. I don't trust his wife. Find a counselor. No, they will just tell me some scientific thing. And people a lot of times are in that place where they say, I don't trust people. I've been hurt. I am. And people talk your business and all of that. And I know even in the book you spoke a lot about finding somebody to talk with, trusting somebody, and so forth. But I want to pull this part up that I found in the book. Let me see if I can get it up there, as much of it as possible. This has to do with counseling, and it says that the main reason why you must seek counseling is that you are unable to help yourself during this current state. When a medical doctor becomes sick and needs surgery, he or she will seek help from other professional doctors who can perform the surgery. Too many people feel that they can diagnose and fix their problems. Help is available, but some people think that their problems will soon end on their own. Let's talk a little bit around that in terms of the importance of seeking guidance, seeking counseling, being able to share your issue, share your problems with someone.
Thank you very much. Counselors are there to help all of us, whether it is in relationship, whether it is in school, whether it's at the workplace. Counselors are there to help us. One of the reasons we will seek help from counselors is that they are professional persons. Um, and oftentimes, they receive professional training to help us as individuals. And so, when we go to them, they might have addressed the same problem with 1,000 persons. So you are only 1,001, and they can quickly bring to your attention what are some of the possible options or solutions to address your issue. And the counselor will able to help you quickly and to say to you, this is your problem, this is your possible option. Many times what counselors will do for us, they don't give us all of the answers, but they allow us to talk. They provide some different scenarios and they ask us to probably address these scenarios. And when we begin to talk about possible solutions to these scenarios, we recognize that we can resolve our own issues. And so counselors are professional persons that are there to help us. Every one of us must seek the help of counselors whenever we recognize we're going through this thing. A question I asked in the book, why seek counseling? And these are some of the possible answers. You need help. So number one, you need help. Second thing, they are professional person to help you. Third thing, the counselor will help you to make the right choice. Fourth thing, many persons love you and want to be your friend. Fifth thing, at your current state, you are thinking of negative things. So we saw five main reasons why a person should seek counseling. And as we said, many times you cannot help yourself, but you need someone to help you. So it's very important that we seek counselors because they will be able there to guide us. And many times the counselors are honest people who will tell us the truth. When you go to a family member, they may tell you what you want to hear. They may give you reasons or answers that might more suit what you would like to hear. But when you go to a counselor, oftentimes they are neutral person who just want to help you. They don't have any history about you. There's no background information. All they want to do is to help you to find solutions. And there are some counselors which their service is free, and there are some counselors whose service required payment. And if you have to pay the counselor to assist you to resolve your problem, oftentimes they will make a very great effort to help you to find possible solutions to your problem. So within a certain time frame, you have found the solution and walk away from your very problem. So it's important to seek counseling because they're there to help all of us. And when they help us, we'll find solutions to the problem that has confronted us over the years.
But what do you say to those individuals who say, you know what? I've sought help before, and I heard my story somewhere else. Somebody disappointed me. I mean, as a pastor, I even hear people say to me, I've spoken to with other pastors and senior church people and all of that, and I heard my business out there, and as a pastor, I know I'm committed to that confidentiality, but there have been cases where people have shared information with others within the church, within colleagues, within the family. I've seen very close friendships um, break up because of this very issue. And so people are carrying around hurt, and they're saying, but the last time I confided in somebody, this thing didn't work. Last time I confided in somebody, it ended up worse than where it was before I did so. And so now I have this bigger issue, or I have another issue, and I'm not sure whether or not I should really say anything because of my past experiences. What do you say to those people?
Well, indeed, I must say to you, there are many religious leaders who have let down their people. And this is in many different religions, whether it's Christian or other religion. They have let down their people. They probably believe that when they talk to those religious leaders, that all of them will remain confidential. Some of them just did not do that. The thing about it is that, remember, if you are unable to fix your problem, then you will need someone else to help you to understand that this problem can be fixed. And when it is fixed, or the approach of fixing it is not taking a life, we can find different ways around it. It is important for you to search your list of friends to see who else can be there to assist you. So if the professional persons can't help you, probably the counselor or the religious leader can't help you, you may have a very good friend. You may have a very good family member who may want to assist you. Before you choose those individuals, it is important for all of us to do some background checks to see if this individual to whom I will talk to will be somebody who's confidential, someone who's professional, and someone who will give me a balanced view concerning life's issue. And when you've done some background checks and you're reasonably satisfied based upon the information you've received, you may then want to approach that individual and see if they can able to help you. So I will endorse what you've said. Not all religious leaders are confidential, despite we expect them to be. Not all managers and supervisors are confidential, despite we expect them to be. But as an individual who needs help, you must find somebody who you can talk to, especially if you can't fix your problem. Somebody got to listen to you and able to help you. Because when you are going through a tough situation like that, suddenly you believe that, there's no answer to it. And I'm saying to you, there are millions of answers to some of the problem we go through, but we have not reached out to somebody else who can help us. But when you're seeking help, make sure you seek help from someone who will able to represent you, listen to you, and will not share your business with anybody else.
And it's also important too that the person that you seek for help must be able to actually offer you good help. Because I've seen a lot of people confide in others who might probably not have a clue of how to solve that issue. For example, you're going through a painful relationship, and you're seeking help from somebody else who is also going through a painful relationship, or who has not been able to overcome a similar situation. And all they're telling you is they're just living out what they think they would have done. They're telling you, girl, the best thing is to just get rid of that man because XYZ. I'm not saying that there aren't times when you wouldn't get good advice like that, but you also have to be very mindful, because I've seen people who are up to now being directed down a particular path because you just sought bad help, and bad help could end up with could lead you to a worse situation than where you are at the present time.
Um, let me interject there, and I do endorse what you said. Remember this thing: when a person is going through a very tough time, not every individual is mature enough and will take a professional approach to seek help from somebody. There are times when a person is going through a bad situation, all they're looking for is any single help. We have a old saying, and I don't know if it's practicable in all of the countries that are listening. A drunken man grabs at any straw. The thing about it, when a person is going through a problem, they don't mind who they talk to. They just want to talk to somebody. We say in layman language, they just want to get it off of their chest. They just want to get it off of their stomach because they believe that if they carry around this thing with them, it's a burden and they kind of just burden forever. So they talk to any single individual. But we're hopeful that tonight, that those who are listening and those who are advising others often try to tell persons that they should seek help from professional persons who can help them. Because if they talk to persons who are immature, who don't have any experience to share with them or any wisdom to guide them, they may go faster down the wrong direction. So I wanted to share that with you. Sorry to interject you.
Right. And I mean, we're almost out of time, but I want to pull something out that I found very intriguing. In fact, I did not think about this concept before I read your book. And let me see if I can bring it up there. It says, it is important to be mindful of problems that are similar to what you've already faced and overcome. And because you put a section in there that spoke about what happens after I've resolved this issue, what happens after I've overcome this battle with suicide. You know, how do I ensure that I don't find myself back in that situation again? How do I not have this situation recurring in my life?
Um, Very good question. For all of us, we may face a similar situation that once confronted us. It's not possible we always face the same situation, but a similar one may occur. Life does not bring anything new to us. All of the things that we've seen happened to our grandparents and many other persons are some of the very issues that will come back. All it does is either to change shape, form, or timing. So indeed, it may be a similar situation, but we must be very mindful. A similar situation does not mean we must use the solution we used previously. For example, person being affected with either cold or a cough, they may use a particular medication the last 5 years. But what they use the last 5 years may not be the same medication that can destroy the virus or the disease because that disease came in a similar state or given similar outcome but requires a different solution. You ask a question, we all must be mindful. We must be alert. Too many persons, when they're out of a problem, they let down their guard. They feel that they've overcome every situation and nothing else will bother them any other time in life. That is a bad position to be in. Always be alert because there will always be some other challenge will come. It may not come in the same timing, not the same shape, but it will come. And therefore, you must learn your lesson because you're moving to a next level as an individual. For instance, when you were going to school and you were in the primary school, you had certain mathematical problems that give you some certain challenges then. When you go into a higher class, you may find a similar problem. And what you may have to do is to use some of the solution you've gained from the lower level class for the new level, but it may require some level of different thinking and different way of dealing with it.
Correct. So you don't want to end up in the same problem all over again. You can't just keep doing things the same way, and you must learn from your experiences and to be able to ensure that you don't repeat some mistakes, because sometimes the challenges that we end up with are mistakes that could have been avoided, had we just taken a little bit more time to treat with those things and to pay some more attention to it and so forth. We just have a few minutes left, but is there anything specific you want to share with the audience about suicide that we did not talk about? Anything that they need to know that you figure this is very important?
All right. Well, yes, you're absolutely right. I want to talk to people about their health. Sometimes ill health could make people begin to think about suicide. For instance, if you recognize you're having a health issue and you recognize that you can't overcome it, you feel that suicide might be the answer. I want to talk to persons who are in the good health or the best shape of life at this stage to make sure you also manage your health because your health is very important. If you can take care of your health, you can do yourself great justice going forward. Also, when you overcome suicide, think about any other person who might be affected and begin to share with them some life lessons that they will also overcome suicide. And I want to say to you, begin to rejoice over the challenges that you've went through and that you've found solutions towards it. When you rejoice, it motivates you as an individual, telling you that here, I can able to go through different problems, but I am a winner. If you don't see yourself as a winner, you'll always see yourself as a loser. So begin to see yourself as a winner, celebrate that you've overcome this challenge, and begin to help other persons to overcome their challenges. You can also share some experiences with your children, with your friend, with your neighbors, so that they can also have in their armory possible solutions to confront the problems that will come their way.
All right. So, and before we go, I just wanted to use the opportunity just to tell the viewers in terms of how they can get a copy of this book, Winning the Battle Against Suicide.
Very good, and thank you very much. And I must say, I am so happy for the listening audience. I must say, I enjoy them, and thank you for the question they've asked. How do you get this book and all other books that I do have? If you have your pen and you want to take notes, I can share with you. The website you can go to, it's www.reidnlearn.com. Let me repeat, www.reidnlearn.com. You can go to my Amazon page. It is amazon.com/author /Geary Reid. I'll repeat again for you, amazon.com/author /Geary Reid. The Geary Reid is spelled GearyReid. And you can also go to my business Facebook page. It is ReidNLearn. And so if you go there, you can able to pick up your book. All of my books are sold on Amazon. You have 50 books on Amazon waiting for you to purchase. The prices of those books range from $4.99 to $9.99 US. So you can able to pick up that book. This current book is only in the ebook format, and so you can able to pick it up immediately. Within another few months from now, you'll have this book also in the paperback version. So you will have options. So go make your purchase, and you'll have this very book, because tonight you can have this book and you can start winning your battle against suicide.
Great, and I was able to, in a matter of seconds, just go on Amazon. Just let you know that I was one of your customers, right? So I was able to go on Amazon and download this book, and I was able to read it right from my cellular phone in just a matter of moments, through Kindle. So it's great, and thank you so much for spending this time with us, Reid. It was definitely informative, and I'm trusting that somebody will receive some information that will help them either pre or post, this situation of suicidal thoughts. So thank you so much. And I'm also very intrigued again by the fact that you've written so many books. I've been trying to just write one book, and I just haven't been able to get very far with it. But I'm inspired by the fact that you could sit there and just write all of these books. It's impressive.
Well, so true. And to let you know, all of these books were written while I'm working with an organization.
Wow.
So I'm not a full-time author. I must also say to you that I also have a family and also have to attend to them. I also have religious activities that I have to do. I'm also studying, but it is all by the help and the grace of the Creator that I was able to write it. And as
Wow.
I share, the last 46 books were written, I think, about 46 months. It was almost a book a month. And I must say, I'm very grateful for all of the support I've received from my family and the Creator to write so many books in such a short time. Soon, I'll be going to the Guinness Book of World Record to verify if this accomplishment is a world record in some perspective. But you'll hear more about that.
Great, great. So thank you very much. And for viewers, thank you so much for staying with us. Join us again next week. We'll have about 2 or 3 pastors on next week, and we'll be talking about how do you deal with issues that arise with your pastors. It's going to be a big discussion. We're going to have men of God from Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago on talking about if you remember and you have a challenge, you have a problem, an issue with your pastor. You don't like how they dealt with something. They said something that you believe they were preaching about you. And all of that. We're gonna talk about that next week. So make sure you're on 8 o'clock right here on the Tobago Inspirational Network, and we're gonna be dealing with that very much. And so thanks again for joining us. And remember, surely goodness and mercy shall indeed follow you all the days of your life, and you shall dwell in the presence of Almighty God forever and ever. Amen and amen. Thank you so much. Bye for now. Enjoy the rest of the evening and your weekend, and stay safe. Wear your mask, sanitize, and be safe.